How to take a bearing using a map and compass. Hi, my name's Ben, I'm a UK based mountain leader and welcome to Summit and Beyond. I made a video, 8 steps to the basics of navigation. Yesterday we covered how to orientate the map. So if you haven't already watched that video, I would suggest going and watching that first. I'll leave a link up here because without knowing how to orientate the map, you can't take the bearing effectively. In this video I'm going to cover what a bearing is, I'm going to show you how to take a bearing, things to watch out for when you're taking that bearing, things that might get in the way, that might sort of make your life difficult. A bearing is a tool that we use to get from where we are to where we want to go in a straight line. Bearing is an essential tool in navigation, especially in poor weather and in the dark, in the night time. We need to be using these alongside some of the other skills that we'll cover in later videos. To take a bearing, we're using the compass. We're using several different parts of the compass. We're using the orientation arrow, we're using the compass needle, and we're using the degrees on the compass to establish which direction we're walking in. You might need to use several bearings to get to your destination. It might be that you're using different features and you're taking a few different bearings to get to where you want to go. So the first thing we need to do is orientate the map. If you need to learn how to do that, then I'll put the link to the video up here and you can go and watch how to orientate the map and then come back to this one. However, I'm guessing that you've already watched that, so I'm not gonna go through orientating the map, I'm just gonna do it. So I'm gonna orientate the map to north. Cool, so that's everything pointing north and my map's orientated. I want to go straight across from this corner to this corner. So I'm going to need to take a bearing from here to here. I'm stood here and I want to end up here. So what I would do is my map's orientated to north now. So if we just double check that, everything's pointing north, which is perfect. So my map's orientated to the ground. So now what I would do is I would pop my little circle, this little dude here, to where I want it to be, and then I would pop the black line where I am, make sure my circle's where I want to go. There we are. So that's pretty much bob on. So you can see the black line here is where it's sitting on where I am and it's sitting on where I want to go. Now what I would do is I would turn the orientation arrow, that's this painted arrow on the bezel, and again, like I said in the last video, if you need to know more about the features of the compass, I've done a video on that, so I'll leave a link for you to go and check that out if you need to. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the orientation arrow, the painted arrow, so it fits in so that the compass needle, this here, fits into the orientation arrow. Now I have my bearing from this corner to this corner. As long as I keep the compass needle in the orientation arrow, like that, I'm on my bearing. So if we look at the degrees, so it's 22 degrees. So I'm walking on a bearing of 22 degrees. So as long as I keep that compass needle inside that orientation arrow, I know that I'm walking on a bearing of 22 degrees. And I know that when I start off from here and I follow that bearing, I'm going to hit this corner here or somewhere about. If the contours are looking pretty cool, it looks pretty flat, maybe going downhill a little bit, but to be honest, as long as I stick to that bearing,
It's probably going to be quite boggy as well. But if I stick to that bearing as best I can, I'm going to see these trees. I'm going to see this plantation here. The trees are going to be quite big or obvious. You know, it's going to be an obvious feature. So if I come too far this way, I'm going to hit the fence line. If I go too far this way, I'm going to be able to see it. So that would be a good feature to take a bearing to, and that's how you take a bearing.
So you saw there that I was using the corner of like a plantation or a woodland forest area going to another plantation. That's a real obvious bearing, and actually the contours, which we'll cover in a later video, the contours are quite forgiving, so you could in theory walk in a straight line on that bearing. It wouldn't be too difficult to follow that, maybe a bit boggy underfoot, but yeah, you should be able to follow that bearing. Now, some of the issues that you might, some of the obstacles that you might come up against when following a bearing is steep ground, or quite either way, a decline or an incline. You could also come across like big craggy area that you can't actually walk over, or you could come across things like rivers, gills. There's like so many features out there that you can end up bumping into as you're walking on your bearing. So it's really important that you think in smaller legs or smaller goals. So it might be that you navigate to that obstacle, and then you navigate around that obstacle, and then you take another bearing from there to the next obstacle or to your destination that you want to arrive at. Using those features that could pose an obstacle to you, that could be a problem, you're now starting to use those features as a tool, to like a tick-off feature, which we'll cover in a later video. You're using those big obstacles as tick-off features to enable you to get to your destination more effectively. So that's how we take a bearing. That's what we use a bearing for. A bearing is simply one tool in an arsenal of weapons that we have to go out there and navigate safely and effectively. It's mind-boggling how this little needle always points to north. It's amazing. That is how to take a bearing. I hope this has been informative for you. I hope that you can use this theory and this practice to get yourself out there into the fells safely, get out there, breathe the fresh air, and be healthy, man. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video in a bit.